What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the other day I actually saw a post by DICE that explains perfectly why Battlefield 6 turned out the way that it did, and the reason why the performance is so absolutely outstanding when it came to the overall beta, and I'm assuming moving into the overall launch. Of course, if DICE didn't do what they did, I feel like Battlefield 6 would have turned out in a much worse spot. But of course, before we go ahead and dive deep, if you guys are interested in more content like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post twice here, once at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and a second time at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And also, I do stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So, of course, if you guys are interested in any of that content, I have a link to that down in the description of this video. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, before we go ahead and dive deep into the reasons for why I believe Battlefield 6 turned out the way that it did, I have a little bit of an additional, information for you guys. As you can see right here from Battlefield Bulletin, unlike Battlefield 6's open beta, snipers will now have to press the spot button if they want to mark other players. David Serlin says they're bringing back the hollow diamonds, so you can tell passive from active spotting too. This is great. Again, guys, don't forget, the spotting system was very overwhelming within the overall Battlefield 6 experience, and it got to a point where, once again, people could just simply scan the field and be able to spot the whole enemy team with absolutely zero effort. So I personally believe this is a step in the correct direction, and they actually go a bit further. I saw another post by Battlefield Wire saying, Battlefield has made changes to the auto-spotting by reducing both the range and its duration since open beta. We found out a lot in beta that it was obviously very strong, just like players said. Really, players ended up just shooting Doritos. Light environments, dark environments, they were just like, hey, aim at the Dorito. You're going to hit something at the end of the day. We definitely don't want that for Battlefield. So we're definitely reducing the duration, reduce the range, everything across the board to really hit that system and align it more appropriately with what we want. Again, we want the information. It's important to ping players, but it's got to be an active part of Battlefield. It can't just be fire and forget, sweep across the whole thing, and everyone's lit up. That was very apparent in open beta, so we've made some considerable changes to the system. In terms of strength overall, we've definitely toned it down via IGN. I'm very happy to hear that the spotting system has been basically completely reworked. I know a lot of people came to me in one of my previous videos when I was discussing the spotting system and the changes that were going on, saying that this wasn't happening and it's just in the labs and these are rumors. But no, it is indeed definitely true. They're adjusting the spotting system not only for snipers where they have to manually ping, but for everybody across the board because, again, it was just simply way too easy. And that's coming from someone like myself as well. Someone that's pretty dang competitive. I'm telling you right now, it was very easy to go ahead and mark players and also engage with players. Now, don't get me wrong, the visibility isn't the best, so it's nice to have such a ping system to allow you to actually spot enemies and see where they're at. But it did become a bit overwhelming to the point where that's all you did. You just simply, ADS, scan across the open battlegrounds, and you can instantly spot if an enemy is chilling anywhere. It doesn't matter. You can't get a jump on an enemy. You can't, get a nice sneaky position. All of that stuff is irrelevant because no matter where you're at, you're getting auto-spotted from across the map. So I'm very happy to see that DICE went ahead and took the extra step to make sure that this is balanced for the overall launch. And I'm hoping that it's good. Again, we probably won't be able to test it. The people in the lab will be able to test it. But for the rest of us, we just got to wait patiently to see if it's good. And I'm assuming, if it's not, they'll be willing to, go back to the drawing board and see if they can do a little extra something to make sure it's all polished off for the overall community. But ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the main topic of today's video. And that is the reason why I think Battlefield 6 plays the way that it plays right now. As you can see right here from Battlefield Bulletin, Ripple Effect says they didn't want Battlefield 6 to suffer from leaks, but getting player feedback had to come at any cost. Following IGN's interview, technical director Christian Bull, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, again, you can correct me down in the comment section, talked about their approach to Battlefield 6 leaks, and how Ripple Effect made it a little bit harder for people to leak things, but kept its sights set on one goal: get the game in front of players, even though they know it will end up leaking. I remember at one point making a big presentation that said, what will leak? Everything. Like, we just started with that assumption that things would leak. Now, to be clear, we didn't want things to leak. We weren't seeking leaks. But we knew that the most important thing was to get the game in front of players, get real feedback from players, get real telemetry, real data, and that had to come at any cost, including the fact that things would leak. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I thought this was absolutely hilarious because I've said it and a lot of other people have said it many times before. We all thought that EA was intentionally pushing out these leaks themselves, right? With how frequently they were dropping, and just like this individual said, they knew that basically everything was going to be leaked, and guess what? That's exactly what happened. There's not a single lab play session that has happened that hasn't been completely leaked out. We even got the full list and gameplay of all the Battlefield BR leaks going on right now, which I was going to go ahead and discuss, but I had to bring this up first and foremost. I might do that in a separate video. But there's not a single lab test that hasn't been posted on Reddit, Twitter, just plastered all over the internet for everybody to go ahead and see. And they knew this. They absolutely knew this. We thought EA was doing it intentionally, but it seems that behind the scenes, they always knew it was going to happen, which kind of explains exactly why they don't even bother striking down any of the video footage, because in the back of their minds, although they didn't want the game to leak out, they knew the possibilities were going to be endless. And with how they're handling the lab sessions, there's absolutely nothing they could do. They can go ahead and try to ban out 1,000 people, but there's going to be 1,000 more posting more gameplay footage and talking about more things going on in the lab play sessions. It's just an endless loop. It's kind of like cheating, for example. How, the anti-cheat, providers go ahead and send out ban waves and get all the cheat software out. And then the cheaters, the people who go ahead and make the cheating software, find a workaround. And then they get all the cheaters back into the game. Then the anti-cheat, company has to go back in and find another way to stop them. It's a cat and mouse chase. And the same thing would be happening with the lab sessions. It's a cat and mouse chase, They can go ahead and ban a bunch of people leaking the game, but it's not going to stop more people from coming on in. And they can't ban everybody that's in the play session, you know what I'm saying? So regardless, it's kind of a lose-lose situation for them when it comes to having an open play test and, worrying about leaks. But this sacrifice right here is exactly why Battlefield 6 is in the situation that it's in. Let's be real here, ladies and gentlemen. Any massive publisher does not want this to happen. They thrive strictly on marketing. They don't want the game to be seen. They don't want it to be known about. They want it to be a complete surprise. If leaks or information comes out, they want it to be very controlled and up to them every last step of the way. And then they want to worry about their marketing budget. They spend millions, probably even more, on marketing these games and pushing them out to the public, okay? That's a lot of cash. That's a lot of cash. So my question is, why would they want the whole game to be leaked? If that's going to basically ruin the whole marketing campaign, what's the point of marketing if people already know what the game is? They know what the atmosphere is, the time period, all of the above, the maps, the gameplay, the flow. They know the whole game. And what's the point of marketing, right? The hype for Battlefield 6 didn't come from marketing. I'm going to say that right now. The trailers did absolutely nothing. It's not like the Battlefield 2042 situation, where we had no clue what was going on with the game. They dropped a banging trailer, everybody got finessed, and they dropped garbage, right? That's what these big companies do. That's what they want, right? They want to finesse people with marketing. Battlefield 6 was the opposite. This game gained hype and traction based off of leaks that we have seen. It's hilarious because I had a bunch of people coming into my comment section all late, when I guess the beta was popping on up saying, oh, why are you guys getting all excited? This doesn't make any sense. Because a lot of us already saw the game. We know what it is. We saw the gameplay. We saw the footage. We probably saw hours worth of actual full-length gameplay. That is where the hype has been accumulated. But as I stated, that ruins the whole purpose of marketing. So these companies don't want that to happen, which is why I'm saying for EA, this is probably a sacrifice for them. But it's a sacrifice for the greater good. And also, EA can't go ahead and flop anymore. And I think they understand this. The relationship between them and their community is so destroyed that they had no more chances to go ahead and finesse anyone with marketing, right? Marketing wouldn't do anything. They knew that gameplay was the only way, and also making a proper product was the only way. And the only way to do such a thing is to incorporate the overall community. And sadly, guess what? If you're going to go ahead and do such a thing, it's just the nature of the beast. People are going to leak out your whole product. They don't care. If they enjoy it, they're going to want other people to see it. Even if they don't enjoy it, they're still going to want to, get other people to see it just for clout points, because people are strange. They just want internet points for some reason. The whole world revolves around the internet now. It's the strangest thing in the world. But that it just is what it is, right? But I'm so stupidly thankful for this because it gave us a great game. If they were to go ahead and just, trust their ego, ignore the community because they didn't want anything to get leaked and wanted to keep the game on the low, and if they just followed the same pattern as they typically do, this would have been a disastrous year, and I guarantee Battlefield would have hit rock bottom, probably further than rock bottom, and it would not be able to recover. I am so thankful they took these steps, and I feel like a lot of other development teams should do this exact same thing. And I am seeing other development teams doing this, like Splitgate 2, for an example. They went back over into beta, and they are doing plenty of playtest, open playtest with their community. I think they're planning more in the future, and I think they're going to be possibly trying to get console players in. Don't mark my words on this. I think I read that somewhere. But regardless, they're trying to get as many people in to test different features, test different things. Like, for example, they went ahead and increased the health in the previous one, added more portal walls. They went ahead and removed the factions, so on and so forth, to see what the community feels with all of this stuff. And they're going to continuously keep pushing with that. And that's how it should be handled, because the community is key. Of course, it's stressful here and there, because I think a lot of people's concerns are when there's too many voices, it's hard to fine-tune the game and give people exactly what they want, because everybody wants something different at the end of the day. But with proper testing and allowing the community to be a part of the process, you can get a very solid product. You might get a lot of different voices and a lot of different opinions, but you'll still be able to fine-tune them. Some people might not be happy with certain things, but it's much better than just completely egoing it and just, freeballing it and seeing what comes out. Like Call of Duty, for example. Could you imagine if Call of Duty had something like Battlefield Labs, where you can go ahead, like Black Ops 7, for example. Before Black Ops 7 even released, they had everybody in the community, not just content creators. Forget that noise. I'm so tired of that garbage. I'm so sick of only content creators being flown out to these events. And I understand I'm a content creator, but screw content creators. They're irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant. I say it all the time on this channel. My voice is just a small fraction. I'm an individual. I'm a human. I'm not a genius. I'm not some all-knowing god. I'm some random dude on the internet who enjoys sharing his opinions. That's it. Content creators are not special, and I'm tired of people thinking that they are. The people are special. And that's how Battlefield 6 got to where it's at, because they allowed the people, not creators, paid to come on out and try these things at events. No, they had people at their houses, their homes, being able to hop into Battlefield Labs and try out the product and give their actual constructive criticism. That is how you go about it. And if Call of Duty would do the same thing, I guarantee we would have a fantastic product on our hand. But guess what? You can't have something like Battlefield Labs while also having, extreme egos. It conflicts too much, You have to drop the egos in order to be able to take in that constructive feedback from the community. And some development teams just aren't able to do that. But ladies and gentlemen, this is why Battlefield 6 is turning out the way that it is. This is why it's so dang fun. And this is why I am so confident that the future of Battlefield 6 is looking freaking just absolutely bright. But, ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post here daily at 8 in the morning Eastern Time. And we also double upload at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Everything between COD, Battlefield, Splitgate 2, Arc Raiders, Gears of War, pretty much any first-person or even third-person shooter that I enjoy, I go ahead and discuss on this channel. So, subscribe and hit that bell. And last but not least, I do stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, if you guys are interested, I got to link that channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.